Welcome to the HMO Property Show. By investors, for investors. Catch us weekly as we discuss all things cash flow positive property investing. Whether you're a seasoned investor, a new landlord, or just curious about property investing, this is the podcast for you. Sponsored by the Co-Living Collective, your trusted partner in creating vibrant and sustainable shared living experiences. Visit us at colivingcollective.com.au to learn more.
Welcome back to the HMO Property Show. I'm your host, Neil Gibb, and I was going to say, as always, but if you've been listening to the show just recently, you'll see that my beautiful wife, Jo, has been recording some podcasts with some various different guests. So I hope you've enjoyed that change. I must get sick of listening to my voice after 100 episodes, but we're going to start to share the mic a little bit more because she's got a big heart. She's very passionate about what she does, and I feel like between us both, we can deliver even more valuable content for the listeners. So there you go. Today I want to talk about credit clarity and how to check it, fix it, and use it like a pro, because, like I said, the key to scaling a property portfolio is not only how creative you can get, but how much money you can actually get your hands on. And if you can leverage the bank's money, that's generally the cheapest money out there. But they'll only lend you money if they know that they can get it back. So as we are in the position that we're in, where we speak to hundreds of investors per month, we get to see and understand the position that certain people are in, right? And some people are in really good positions, strong cash positions, no credit. And then we see people with money in the bank, but they've also got credit cards, which have got high limits on them, but also high balances on them as well. And that's great, right? Because you can use credit, especially credit cards as well, to fund manufactured growth strategy. So if you buy a property, for instance, and then you've got a credit card with 30 or 50 grand on, you can potentially use that to pay for the kitchen, pay for your trades, etc. But, and this is a big but, get credit cards wrong and they can cripple you, because debt compounds the same as interest compounds. If you let them payments spiral out of control, then you'll find yourself in a pretty bad position. And I can tell you that from experience, because I've been in terrible financial positions previously with credit cards. To get, what was that company called back in the UK? It's like Citizens Advice. I had to go to them to find out how to get help with my credit cards, and they stepped in and contacted all the companies that I owed money to, and we put a payment plan in place and managed to pay it all off. You know, it's not a bad thing. It was a lesson, another one of these expensive lessons that I continuously talk about. But right now in Australia, there's over 12 million credit card accounts that exist in Australia. And there's over $43 billion in total credit card debt. And that was of 2025. That's the most recent stat I can find. August 2025, should I say. So we're not too far off, but 43 billion in credit card debt. And you wonder why the banks are making so much money, right? If they're actually having 20% interest on credit cards, and there's 43 billion in credit card debt. That's astonishing, isn't it? And over 20 billion of that is accruing interest. So half of the credit card debt is accruing interest. The average balance per credit card is around 3,557, and the balance accruing interest is 1,664 per account. So $1,664 per account. Let's just quickly work that out. We've got 12, apologies, I'm just pulling my phone out to actually work this one out. Should have worked this out before, right? 12 million times 1,664. Wow, 19 billion. Well, it says there, 20 billion of that's accruing interest. So I've just literally read it out, and then I had to work it out on my phone just to clarify. So the bad thing is there's around 1.8 million Australians that are struggling to make credit card repayments, and around 51% of Australians age 15 plus have a credit card. So half of us have credit cards. And again, this isn't a bad thing. But what they don't teach you at school is what debt is. They don't teach you about compound interest, but also how debt compounds as well. They don't tell you how to leverage credit so that you can build wealth. If anything, they probably tell you that debt's a tool to be scared of. And this is why a lot of people don't want to invest, because they are frightened about the size of a mortgage that's hanging over their heads, even if it's a good debt. And while we're on that, let's talk about good debt. So we've spoken about it previously, but good debts are the debts that help you build wealth. It's a mortgage that you take out, but somebody else pays the interest on that. And good debt also is often, not all the time, but often tax deductible. So if you're taking a mortgage out for a HMO, if you're taking out for a standard investment property, that is a good debt, and that is tax deductible. And if you put a tenant or tenants in your property and they pay rent, you can use that rent to pay down the debt. on that good debt, right? So it's where other people pay down the debt for you. On the other hand of that, we've got bad debt, right? So bad debt is the kind of cars, holidays, consumer goods, often tied to high interest rates, credit cards, etc. Afterpay, that's growing rapidly at the minute. The bad thing about it is no one else is going to pay it off for you. You've got to pay it off yourself. And that was a position I found myself in. I was in like 2004, 2005. So you've got to ask yourself before you take on any debt, is anybody going to pay this debt off for me, or am I going to have to pay this off myself? Even good debt can affect your borrowing capacity. We'll talk about debt to income ratios soon as well. But if you can be over leveraged, then it can stop you getting the next deal. And this is why a lot of people get tapped out, as they say, from the banks, because they have too many negatively geared properties and too much debt in their name for the income that they generate. So why does credit matter in property investing? Because it determines your borrowing power and your loan terms. So if you've got a good credit rating, then you can borrow more money. If you've got high income and low debt levels, you can borrow more money. Sometimes if you're in a strong position as well, depending on the bank that you work with, if you've got a private banker, then that could influence the interest rate and obviously the loan product that you get access to as well. And it can also, strong credit can unlock larger, cheaper loans as well. But if you're at the start of the journey, you're not fortunate enough to have access to all of that stuff. Neither am I currently. We're working on it. We've been speaking to our banking manager to try and get our own private banker, and we're getting close to that now. And on the other side of that as well, even like small defaults can have major consequences on your credit rate and what you can borrow from the banks. Even something like $100 unpaid Telstra bill can result in default, and that default sits on your credit file for up to 5 years, and that can sometimes derail you from investing. Again, on the flip side of that, good credit helps you refinance existing properties, enables you access to equity for new deals, but poor credit creates bottlenecks in your growth. So the reason that I wanted to do this podcast is because every 6 months I download my Equifax report to find out what my credit score is. And Equifax is an online, website, I suppose. And you can go on there and you can download your credit score for free. And your credit score reflects your credit worthiness to lenders. So some of the lenders that we work with in this space, they want a credit score of over 700, for instance. Some of them might look at 650. Anything under that, they might just reject it no matter what sort of income you're earning. And the different tiers affects your approval rate and loan pricing. With your credit score, excellent is 800 plus. Mine is over 800, so I'm in a good position. Good is 700 to 799, fair is 600 to 699, and poor is below 600. So if you go into Equifax, you put all your details in, and you can download everything, and you'll see all of your finance footprints, if you want to call them that, for where you've applied for finance. They can see what credit cards you've got in your name, what loans you've got in your name personally. If you've got a company, they can also see if you've become a guarantor for certain loans and certain credit that your businesses have taken out as well. Yeah, if you've got a lower score, if you've missed repayments, if you haven't paid things on time, if you've got too much debt, if you're applying for too much finance, that can bring your credit score down. So it's always good to look at this sometimes. Like I say, we do it every 6 months, more just to see if there's anything that we have forgot to close down. Obviously, when you get to the size of businesses we have, loans that we have, etc., you can't remember everything, right? No matter how good your record keeping is, all of these small things that are going on, you can sometimes forget. So logging into this helps you see if your credit score is still good, if it's dropped down, why. You can see absolutely everything on there. And also when you apply for finance with banks, they also check these credit scores too. So you can use Experian, Equifax. There's another one called Get Credit Score. You literally sign up for free access, and then they sometimes give you tips on how to improve your score. You are legally entitled to one free report per year per bureau, and you can request it directly from Equifax, Experian and Ilion. And like I say, it's useful for checking your full credit history, but also any negative things that are going on in your credit world as well. Things that you might not even be aware of could be happening in the background. There could be the old Telstra bill. There could be anything that you've signed up for and you're being defaulted on payments because you've changed your bank account details or something like that. It's always good to check just to keep on top of things. And you can check all three of the bureaus as well just to see if any of them have different scores and if any of them have got something on there that shouldn't be on there and the other ones don't. So red flags. Let me just get my notes back up. Red flags. So even if you're 14 days late on a payment, that can be can be recorded in your credit file, so make sure that your payments are on time. If you miss one, it's not too bad, but if they're over 14 days late, that can be an issue. Defaults that occur over 60 days, well, defaults actually occur at over 60 days, and they can also drop your credit score by 100 points, which you don't want that to do, right? So the other thing as well, if you're applying for a lot of credit as well, it can leave what we said earlier, like credit footprints on your credit score, because it'll then make the lenders or the credit card providers make it look like you're desperate for finance, and it can be known as what's called credit shopping. So if you're applying for finance, don't apply for heaps at once. I started following this guy online previously called King Credit from America. And the way the Americans do this and the way that we do it here in Australia is totally different. And this guy was saying you can apply for like hundreds of credit cards at once, and he was like flashing all these different Amexes around. I looked to see if we could do it here in Australia, and you couldn't. So be careful. Don't make it look like you're desperate for credit, because that will reduce, or that will produce, should I say, footprints on your credit score. And then you want to make sure that all your personal details are on there correct as well. When you check your credit score, make sure it's definitely you, not somebody else. You want to make sure that if you have got any defaults on there, you don't have duplicates, because that can damage your score unfairly. And you can also dispute and request for removal of these things as well. So if you've got defaults on there that aren't true, or you've got defaults on there that you've settled and you want to get them off there, you can contact the creditor to pay and request an update, and aim to mark the default as paid so that you can start rebuilding your credit score faster. You can also dispute incorrect listings, so you can write to the credit reporting agency, and if you can provide evidence like receipts or statements, they've got to get back to you within 30 days. And what I've also would say is try and avoid all these dodgy credit repair companies. You can do this yourself. Here you can use ASIC licensed financial counsellors. But in the UK, I went to Citizens Advice Bureau. Yeah, first things first, I'd just start on this. Start with your credit score, download it, see what's on there. If you need to, contact some of the creditors to try and get these things taken off. And like I say, you will get some tips as well from Experian or wherever you download your credit score from. Now, if you are using credit cards, then there's some tips and tricks which I've learned over the years as well that can help you increase your credit score. And again, I was listening to a podcast not too long ago where the guy was saying that if you only use 30% of your balance, then that's good. If you've got like $10,000 limit, but you're only using $3,000 a week, $3,000 of that $10,000 limit, then that's good, because it doesn't look like you're desperate for living off your credit cards. But he also said that if you pay that off weekly, so let's say you put $750 a week on there and you clear that balance weekly, that increases your credit score, but it'll also increase the credit limit that you get from that credit card company. Now, this can also have an adverse effect, because if you've got a high credit limit on your credit card, that can also reduce your borrowing capacity when you go to the banks. And obviously, like I said earlier, the name of the game is how much money we can get from the bank so that we can buy more property. So we don't want to give them any reasons to not give us money. We want to give them reasons to give us money. So some quick tips are: only spend what you can repay in full. You should live by this method anyway. Only spend what you can afford to spend. Don't spend more than you earn. But if you're using a credit card, avoid interest by paying the entire balance monthly. This, like I say, builds trust with your lenders and reduces stress as well on yourself. I was in a bit of a pickle. I remember when I went to the bank one time, I couldn't even get £10 out, and it was because my credit cards were just so maxed out that I got paid. They'd taken the money straight on a direct debit, and I had no money that week. So that's how my parents stepped in, and they helped me. They took me, or marched me down. I'll say my mother marched me down to the Citizens Advice Bureau, and that's what started this kind of repair for me. And this was years ago. I was literally 21 years old, so 20 odd years ago. You can set up automatic payments so that you never miss payments like I did there, but it's also, if you're rinsing your credit card, it can put you in a bit of a bad position. Automatic payments can protect your credit file and can be linked to your offset account as well. So if you are trying to maximize the money in your offset account, that's good. You can use a credit card for the maximum amount of days and then pay that balance off in full, either weekly or monthly, and keep the money in your credit card. You can use them for anything, really, like groceries, fuel, regular activities. What you should try and do is avoid going out there and buying yourself new pair of shoes, a new handbag, a new watch or something like that, try and just use your credit card for the same things all the time, like your grocery shopping, fuel in your cars, etc., etc. Now, if you have already got a credit card and you are concerned about the balance and you are paying money, or you're making the minimum payment on your credit card every month, but you feel like you're not going down, then you can sometimes consolidate all of your debt into a new credit card or into a loan as well. So there's some credit cards out there that will offer you 0% interest on balance transfers, and sometimes I'll offer them for 12 to 24 months as well. So let's say, for instance, if you've got $10,000 on your credit card that you're trying to pay down, but you're only making the minimum payment of $254 a week or month, let's say, that $254 a month might mean you're only paying $20 off the principal, but you're paying $230 interest. If you transfer that over to a 0% balance transfer, then that $250 fully comes off the balance, not the interest, because you're paying no interest for 12 or 24 months. This can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in interest, and also time as well. You want to get these things paid off as fast as you can. What you do need to be careful with if you do them balance transfers is after the promotion time, the interest will jump to 20% plus, and then any unpaid balance, you're back to square one. So if you are going to transfer your balance, transfer it, pay it off quick, and always read the fine print when you're doing these things. And also, if you are using your credit card and it's got you into a bit of a pickle, try to not use it once you do the balance transfer. Try to live off the money that you got in your bank, and then try and find out why you're spending so much money. So yeah, if you keep the utilization under 30%, so again, if you've got a $10,000 limit using $3,000 per month, the lenders will see this as responsible, which then boosts your credit card score over time. Avoid maxing out your credit card, even if you can repay it later. It signals that you might be relying on debt and it looks risky to banks. But yeah, if you keep it between like 30 to 50% and you're paying it off weekly instead of monthly, that can also help. And only increase your limit carefully if really needed. So again, if you want to try and use credit cards to do manufactured growth strategies, let's say you're doing a sell joint venture, for instance, and you don't have much cash, but you've got a credit card with 30 or 50 grand on, you can potentially pay for your manufactured growth strategy on the credit card, which isn't a bad thing. It's the same as doing a joint venture. You're just doing a joint venture with a credit card company. Other things that you can do as well is keep older accounts open, which shows that you've got good long-term financial behavior. Older accounts can improve the average credit age, excuse me, and you can cancel them only if absolutely necessary. Like I say, these credit cards can be good. If you got them inside a business, then we use the Amex Platinum Rewards card, which I get lots of points for. It means that every time we fly, we can fly business class. But I wouldn't recommend doing that in your own name, because you're paying off that credit card with pre-tax personal expense rather than post-tax business expense. That's a whole nother podcast for another day. Please, please, please avoid like Afterpay and Latitude and all of these other little companies that come out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love walking out with Good Guys with an 85-inch flat screen TV and zero money coming out of my bank. Just a bit of a thrill, isn't it? Well, it's not as thrilling when you speak to your mortgage broker and she says, Neil, what have you bought this television for? Just pay the loan off. It's affecting this credit score because the bank can see your Equifax statement and they're asking why you've got it there. So you have to pay off eventually, right? As good as the buzz is, you just need to do it. Pay your bills on time every time. Again, with credit in general, try not to have any defaults and try not to let them run more than 60 days. Set reminders up in your calendars, set up direct debits, etc., etc., especially if you've got a property portfolio that's relatively large. Get your property managers to pay some of these bills on time for you out of your portfolio, or set direct debits up yourself from the bank account so that they can be paid. Remember that you need to control credit, not fear it. Debt is a tool, not an enemy. If you master debt and understand how it works, you can make it work for you, not you work for the debt. Abuse it and it works against you. A strong credit card gives you, or strong credit score gives you leverage, gives you more options, better rates, makes investing easier, increases financial confidence. So if you want anything to do today, I would turn this podcast off once I wrap it up. Go to Equifax.com, check your score, see what you need to do or what you can do to increase it, and then get out there and start doing some property deals, because if this is the thing that's stopping you back, it might be an easy fix. So hope that helps. Join us again next week on the HMO Property Show.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in the same time next week so you can stay up to date with all cash flow positive property updates.